4 years after shaking the world with his last move, a spectacular death, both the press and us, its docile hordes, seem to have begun admitting a scent of doubt. The Niagara waterfall of ridicule and dirt, under which the music genius spent his brief presence with us, finally thinning, reveals the truth universally acknowledged, to make us believe in him. He needed to die. He will not triumph at our expense over the fact that his art will survive us all, which is not a surmise anymore, as his artistic inheritance prove there is arguably no other in modern art of the same consequence, volume, and height of humanitarian essence. Vulnerability, exalted sensitivity of human nature, naivete, agitation, feebleness, pain, hope, despair, and search of strength to bear it all became his artistic abode after the unseen scale of popularity, unforgiving of childlike spontaneity and unconsciousness of the media's predatory nature, had imprisoned a 24-year-old Michael Jackson to an unprecedented atrocity of media bullying and public disdain, deadly glued to the former for the rest of his life. Here is the question: what kind of music, performances, lyrics, films, philanthropy, hospitals, parks, and who knows what else we would have possessed if the world would be willing to pay more for the well-deserved press coverage of Michael Jackson's artistry than for his presentation as a freak and spectacle? Another one: who else's career would have survived the fanatical persecution for 26 years with which he dealt so naively, trusting that his vision of the world, no matter how singular, if good-natured, communicated through his denudating lyrics or TV confessions, will be heard? As one of paparazzi Ben Ebenstadt puts it, he was the only celebrity that, if you were devoted enough, he would let you into his house. You would think somebody could go to Bruce Willis' house and say, "I love you, I love you," that you'd get in? He'd call the police, and that's what all of them would do. All but Michael. If you said, I love you to Michael Jackson, he would assume you meant you loved him, and he would let you in. Why is it only now, watching again Barbara Walters' interview, it is not Michael Jackson, but the host who looks unreasonable in emphatically formal attire, gray suit, short haircut, seemingly intended to underscore her subject's perverseness? When she asks, rather asserts, isn't it his extreme appearance that provokes press ridicule? Does she want him to dress like her, behave like her, think like her? Gray suit, short haircut? Whom would she be interviewing then, and for such a rating? Herself? Lady Gaga, a talented and promising performer, seems to be adopting the technique of attracting media, only with a safety belt. She would appear before press and on stage, well, everybody knows in what, do her thing and go back to normal, being very practical, calculating, and cautious about where and how and what to say, do and where, admirably, cold-mindedly, and skillfully managing her career. The very thing Michael Jackson would have found unthinkable, to be a pretender on stage, or vice versa. Michael Jackson was the embodiment of his art. This was the very thing that gave him his immense power, and the unwillingness to be dishonest off stage is probably what had killed him. It is unlikely now, if he were looking back at the pain he went through and had a chance to live his life again, that he would submit to what was the public's demand and his abhorrence. He was eccentric on stage and in life, and if he had been a gray suit in life, he would have been a gray suit on stage. Above all, he believed that there was nothing to conceal because of his harmless nature and such. Rather rare characters usually tend to believe in symmetrical response, no matter how many injuries the more common result produces, because believing otherwise would have ruined him. Curiously, this death has ruined some paparazzi's living who used to indulge in lucrative loots around the life of the greatest, no matter how frail or inactive was the king. Ben Ebenstadt says, "This is what hit me halfway through the night of Michael Jackson's death. What do I do now? Chase Zac Efron around?" In the latest stage of physical and psychical pain and despair, under insurmountable debt, emaciated, and should have been forgotten 10 years ago, just a shell of a human, the king was the media's gem of another class than the modern stars in their hip. Among so many betrayals by those who live by his means, another, the last one, at least won't make Michael Jackson's heart bleed again. Paparazzi were astonished that bodyguards, usually catching their every move when surrounding the ambulance that took their savior's lifeless body from his house, were only murmuring to the adult shooting pack, "Please, guys, don't do it," allowing them to take through the ambulance window that infamous picture of the dying king, which scored $1 million. As inconceivable as it may sound, we have put together a matrix of Michael Jackson's life and action, his doings versus the world's doings to him.